Hey, how y'all doing? It's Shalonda, and hey, how y'all doing? And I'm here to do a reading wrap up. So let's get into this thing, shall we? All right. I hope you guys had a great week. I hope you had an even better weekend. Um, Mine was pretty good. I was able to catch up with a whole lot of reading, hence this video. So this will be a combination of some ARCs that I received from some publishers and some personal reads of the books that I decided to keep on my Kindle when I cleaned it out. But yeah, it's been a really good ride, and I think according to Amazon, I have my reading streak back. I think, and I hope. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with this thing, okay? So the first book I'm going to talk about is Love in Bloom by Lucy Eden. This is going to be released November 12th, and it's going to be published through Forever Publishing. This is a small town romance. It is also uh, interracial romance. We have a black American woman, and we also have an Indian male character who is an immigrant. So basically, inside this book, we have Emmeline, who is willed her grandparents' farm when they transition on. Okay, and Emmeline has not seen her grandparents in a very long time, but there is a reason for that. So when she gets this notice that she's being willed to farm, she's just totally taken by surprise. Emma is a city girl. This story is based in Georgia. Um, Emmeline lives in Atlanta, and the farm is, of course, outside of Atlanta. But when she goes on the day that she goes to her grandparents' will reading, she runs into Danish, and it just goes from there. They kind of like meet in a very, it was very awkward their meeting, and Emmeline was not aware that actually Dinesh knew her grandparents, actually worked for her grandparents' farm. He was actually the farm manager. He also did some other things on the farm as well. Um, for the most part, I like this book. Like I said, this is a small town romance. Has some hilarious moments in it. Um, she also deals with some very serious topics as well, which I think she was very careful with in this book. I think Emmeline and Danish had very good chemistry together, um, and I liked them together. Emmeline tended to be a bit too much at times. She was a big old crybaby, but Emmeline is dealing with some things. She never knew that. Well, okay, so Emmeline, content trigger warning for the story is that Emmeline had a sister who passed on during childhood. So there is mention of childhood death and childhood sickness inside of the story. So the loss of her sister puts this big rift between her parents and her grandparents. And even though Emmeline and her sister grew up on the farm, Emmeline was very young. She don't remember a whole lot of being on the farm. Once they had this falling out with the parents, she just, it was there. So she's really shocked and surprised when she finds out that she is willed this farm, because she doesn't know what she is going to do. Her parents are both doctors, I believe, so she's very educated. Always has been pushed by her parents to basically go above and beyond. And Emmeline is struggling with that aspect of living up to what her parents want. It's very hard for her. So Emmeline does have some issues with inside of this book. Also, with Dinesh, he didn't have like a whole lot of issues, but he did have the thing of um, the reason why he was in the states anyway. It was kind of like a scandal that happened. he got caught up in, he was lied on, and it just, he just had to get away from that, and this is how he ended up in the States or whatever. um but the book, it was a good read. I liked it. We do get a third, kind of, so I felt like it was kind of sort of third act breakup, but they really didn't break up. But that's the formula for a lot of traditionally published romance. You got to have that damn third act breakup in there. um but it was just good. I liked Dinesh for Emmeline. He was very good to her, good at taking care of her, and also making her take care of herself. Emmeline was the type of person that tended to put other people ahead of her needs, and that always ended up being the detriment to herself. Hence her ain't shit ass who becomes her ex-boyfriend inside of this book. Like, that dude was terrible. And I can't even say that he had, maybe like when they were in college, he maybe had some feelings for Emmeline, but this man had a goal, he had a plan, and Emmeline was just part of the plan. So thank God she met Dinesh, and Dinesh just was great from her. Great for her. We also have the back plot of Emmeline trying to find out what this rift was, this big rift that was caused, that went on between her parents and her grandparents, and why they don't talk to them, why they kept her away from them. It's a whole lot going on. But for pretty much, far as the romance, her and Dinesh pretty much get along real well. They don't really have any issues with each other, or any outside issues that come in with their romance. Um, Emma did put her foot in some doo doo, um, towards the end of the book, but it was fixed by the end of the story. But yeah, so for the most part, I liked it. So I would say, like, if you like small town romances, you know, where the author deals with some pretty heavy topics. Why can't I talk? Some pretty heavy What the hell? Some pretty heavy topics. Um, well, then I would say read this book. It's a good one. I liked it, and again, it's going to be released November 12th. So keep an eye out on it. Next book is going to be Taming Kane, a dark paranormal romance by Tessa Stone. This is a black romance, it's a paranormal romance, and basically what's in this story, we have like where humans and shifters, they don't get along, their worlds are separate, but inside of this story, a lot of the human women um, tended to end up on this island that the paranormals were on. It was kind of like this bridge between, human world and the shifter world, or paranormal world, or whatever. So a lot of human women ended up in the on the other side of the bridge, because sometimes men ain't shit, and it. But inside this story, I'm just saying. So inside this story, we have Tammy, who can, she has no skin in the game. It doesn't really matter to her. She's a little scared of the shifters, the shifters and paranormals or whatever. But it's just like, if it ain't got nothing to do with her, it ain't got nothing to do with her. This book is pretty fast paced. We do have insta love through way of faded romance, faded mates. When we kind of find out that Kane, who is the shifter inside, he's a wolf shifter inside of this romance, him and Tammy are faded mates. So we do have that insta love through that connection. So, but for the most part, I like the book. Um, it was a pretty, okay read. Even though we have this faded mate romance, and like I said, it moves quickly because of that. I still feel like that we didn't have like any. I just wanted them. I don't know. I just feel like they didn't have like any connection, or any. I just did not feel that connection between these two characters on page. Tammy ends up being on the run. Comes to find out that her roommate's boyfriend wants Tammy, and he's gonna do anything to get her. So she ends up running away from that situation, and she ends up in the world on the other side of the bridge with Kane. And Kane lives closer to that bridge. Inside of the story, Kane is kind of like a loner. He keeps to himself. Um, he does on this island that these paranormal has. The wolf shifters do have a village, but Kane just feels like, until he finds his mate, he didn't feel any need to be inside of this village with everybody else. So when uh, Tammy ends up, about to be jacked up by this man ends up chasing her all night, and she ends up with Kane. And, we instantly go into the story where these two are fated to be together. And, you know, like I said, I just feel like they didn't have like much chemistry on page between one another. Um, I like Kane. I thought he was a good character. I liked Tammy too. I do feel like he was a little bit too possessive, too jealous at time, because in this particular shifter telling, when these male shifters find their mates or whatever, is pretty much they take care of them. It's a lot of that princess treatment and queen treatment that is going on within a lot of these black romances or whatever. But I just felt like it's like he wouldn't even let the lady live the house, lead a cabin. They were like in this cabin on the outskirts of the village that Kane belonged to. So once he mated her, it was just like he still would not like let her out of the house, like wouldn't let the lady cook. I mean, I'm not complaining about those things. Those things are good, but I just feel like it was just like, okay, so you're not even gonna let the lady walk up on the front porch, like, like get some damn air. She's gonna be stuck in this damn cabin with you, like, listen, ain't too much a little penis and and some food can do. Okay, let me the fuck up out of here. I gotta go outside. I have to breathe. Okay, so so it was kind of like that, but it also kind of like ties into that whole thing. I feel like that they didn't have any chemistry on page. It was just like, they were together, and I don't know. I would have liked maybe more of the building of the relationship and the romance between Tammy and Kane. Um, Another thing that was a big issue for me, well, it was the biggest issue for me with this book. There is a physical abuse scene, very graphic on page, and I just feel like that it did not need to be there. Especially, so what ends up happening is the guy that was kind of like obsessed with Tammy or whatever, he ends up kidnapping her, and he is trying to get her back to the human side, because once they realize, like, if he gets her back over to the human side, it will be hard for Kane and his brothers to find her or whatever. But the man was handsy, and I was just like, I don't know if that needed to be so graphic on page, especially with this woman being pregnant at this point, at by the end of the book. It was just like, I don't know, it just took me so out of this. It took me so much out of the story. It was crazy. So I was just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's sometimes it's just like the abuse and the domestic abuse inside these books just be way too damn graphic, and I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not feeling it, and I need for them to do. I'm gonna need for them to be doing better, because that shit was wild. It was crazy. Either way, Kane ends up getting Tammy back, and they get their happily ever after or whatever. But yeah, I ended up rating this one 3 stars, because I was just like, that it did, like, that was so freaking unnecessary. I do like the meat and bones of the story, what she has going on here. There will possibly be like a war brewing between humans and paranormals or whatever, because listen, they don't like each other inside of Miss Stone's telling. They don't like each other, and bitch, we it's like it's on site every time, pretty much every time they see each other or whatever. It's like they just been waiting. But for the most part, this was a pretty okay read. We will There will be another book. It will be the brother's book. The I think he's the youngest brother. There are four of them. Two of them are already made it, and the ones that weren't made it was Kane and his youngest brother. So the next book is going to be the youngest brother. So yeah, it was a pretty okay read. But that abuse scene, I was like, this can't be in here. Why is this in here? Next book is the last one by Rachel Howzell Hall. This is a romance fantasy, and pretty much I DNF'd this book. I got 25% in and could not do it no more. The pacing was ridiculously slow. And basically, we have the main character, Kai, who ends up in this town, not by any fault of her own. She she has lost her memories. She doesn't remember who, pretty much who she is, where she belongs. Like, from like just peeking through the book, it's like she's gaining her memories as the story moves along or whatever. But when we first go inside of the book, she doesn't have any memories of who she was, who she is, or where she came from. And what ended up happening, it I don't know, she was just like, she was in this forest that was in the surrounding forest where they have like these little towns or whatever. But the town that was next in the part of the forest that she was in, it's like everybody was sick, and the town was pretty much on the verge of death. Like, everybody about to die. Like, I mean, just sick. Everybody about to be dead inside of the town or whatever. And what ended up happening, whatever happened to Kai, she ended up in this forest, and she was either asleep or knocked out or something like that, and she was robbed by one of the ladies or the young girls from this town. And Kai ends up chasing her back inside of the town. And because Kai is like, yo, give me my shit, and she's, because I'm about to beat your ass if you don't give me my shit, she ends up being indebted to pretty much this town, where she's doing a whole lot of things to pay off this debt for causing a commotion and all this other stuff. I don't know. From what I read, it looked like this town needed some goddamn commotion, because with that, why was y'all selling that sick ass food? But okay, so but I don't know. And it seems like the romance is going to be coming in. The girl, she ends up staying with the girl that stole from her in the older brother. And it seems like the romance is going to be developing between Kai and this dude. He is a welder, and he is also a good swordsman. At some point in time, I'm assuming that she's going to be leaving this town, and her and this man are going to be going on some type of adventure or whatever, where she's basically trying to regain her memories, and basically like, what the fuck happened to me? You're like, what's going on here? She's somebody special. She just cannot remember it. I don't think I'm in the right headspace to read this book right now, so I put it down. And basically, yeah, the pacing is killing me, and I feel like if we're going to be getting this slow pacing right now at the beginning of the book, it is going to kill me through the rest of it. And it is a long ass book, and I ain't in a right mind frame for that. I don't want to be hate reading. I don't understand people that hate read. It's very just like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But to each his own. But at some point in time, I will come back to the last one. The book is going to be released on I think this is well, when I got it, they said it's going to be released December 3rd. So hopefully I will find some interest by then. I don't know. But yeah, big old patient issue for me. Next book is going to be Lock You Down, a Grumpy Sunshine romance by Shae Sanders. This is the third book in the Jackson Brothers series. This is the youngest brother's book, Isaac. And Isaac ends up going into a romance with his probation officer, okay? Because throughout the other books, the two older brothers' books, Isaac is kind of like in and out of jail, but he's out now and he's just trying to get his shit right or whatever, okay? But I really did enjoy this book. I liked it a whole lot. Um, I don't know. I just feel it because okay. So if you read the books, you would know that these brothers lost their father um, at young ages, and it got Taurus, the oldest brother, to being like, want to be everybody's daddy. Both the brothers wanted to fight him because they was just like, nigga, you ain't my daddy, get off my back or whatever. But Isaac really had a hard time. I can never remember the middle brother's name, like never ever ever. But anyway, but Isaac really took it to heart, and him and Taurus have this really kind of like tumultuous relationship inside of his book. And Isaac is trying to deal with that. Isaac is also trying to understand why he feels like, you know, he doesn't have a woe is me attitude, but he could be throughout the read very self-loathing, always having like a really low or bad opinion of himself. And what I will say that I enjoyed most about this book was the one of the conversations that she had between Isaac and what was this damn lady's name? I'm sorry, y'all. Azalea, the main female character. Her name is Azalea. The conversations that went on between Isaac and Azalea. So the sunshine part, Isaac is the grumpy one. And the sunshine comes from Azalea. She's a PO, probation officer, but the woman is externally always happy, and everybody just like, what the fuck you always walking around here smiling for? But so the conversations that tended to go on between her and Isaac were very good conversations. I love that she put therapy on page, and we also got conversations between Isaac and his therapist. Isaac was going through a lot. They all lost their father, but Isaac was the one that found the man, and Taurus and the other brother were pretty much, out the door, out of the house. So Isaac was constantly there. So he kind of like, he felt like, he didn't have enough time with his father. He felt like it should have been his father raising him instead of, all the other stuff. And their mother pretty much tapped out once the father died. So it and that caused for Isaac to just, trouble came knocking on the door, and he kept answering it. So this is why we get this situation with him in and out of jail. But this romance between Isaac and Azalea, I liked it. There really was no bad issues. It was pretty much a non-complicated, a non-conflicted romance that went on between them. I love that they handled this situation was like, okay, before we move any further, because we know we want to get to know each other very very well, let's just get you from being my PO. Let's find you another probation officer so that we can move forward with this relationship. You know what I mean? So I like that they did that. They had very much grown up conversations and they very much moved in adult ways. And even though Isaac tended to have like this very low way of thinking about himself, he was a good dude, you know what I mean? He took care of Azalea, did things for her. Boy, did he do some things for her and to her, honey. I was just like, ooh, Shae, them scenes, I was like, child. Whew, Isaac was hot, honey. Isaac was hot, 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 hot. And it was funny because Azalea was instantly attracted to Isaac, which, it was just like, oh my God, this man is just going to make my job so much harder, you know what I mean? And it didn't it didn't make it like any easier because he looked good as hell. Like all the brothers looked good, but from the description of Isaac, it was like, the whole the dude that with the whole prison bay situation going on, whatever. Like that kind of sort of was Isaac or whatever. But for the most part, I like this story. I love the chemistry between Isaac and Azalea. I just thought they had like really great, outstanding chemistry on page, and I loved like the easy conversations that they had. I think the author did a very good job of handling some very sensitive topics inside of this book. Okay, especially with Isaac, coming out of jail and how people tended to judge, especially Azalea's old big ass head sister. Like, girl, you're very judgmental. You need to back up because listen, if your sister wanted to lose her job over some goddamn dick, that's her goddamn business. Mind yours. Anyway, her sister was very judgmental, but I think she had very good conversations around that. And Azalea, because she was this externally always happy person. Oh God, them type of people get on my goddamn nerves. Cause bitch, why you always walking around here smiling? Listen, okay. But with Azalea, I love the way Shae Sanders described her because she just wasn't like, just a probation officer or a PO that went to go see these people, stay on their back, stay on their neck, and stuff like that. She wanted to do outreach within the community, make sure these people, like once they got outside of jail, that they were able to get back to healthy, happy, well-rounded lives. You know what I mean? Like she helped them find jobs, she helped them get in school, she got them to do therapy. She was doing so much, like, and she eventually wanted to take that further while doing like a whole lot of more community service and also getting in touch with kids and people before the jail situation happens. She was a very good character to see on page, and I loved how she didn't hold any type of judgment against I was about to call that man a whole nother name. I like that she didn't have any type of judgment towards Isaac. You know what I mean? But it helped that he looked good and also that he was, bing, packing. But yeah, I like this book. I ended up rating it 5 stars. Yeah, if you love prison based stories, definitely check it out. I do also, before I leave, I love that we got this conversation between Taurus and Isaac, and why these two tended to be like oil and water towards one another. That needed to be on page, and I'm very glad that it was on page. So yeah, very good read. I was very happy with this one. Next book is going to be Sister Samurai by Tatiana Obey. This is, I guess you want to say, Magna book, and it centers around a black female samurai. And I love this book to pieces. It was so good. And look at this damn cover. The cover is gorgeous. I'm going to order the physical copy because, yeah, I need to have this on my shelf. I wonder if my local Barnes and Noble have it. But either way, this is a very, very good book. And basically we have this story of us throughout the read. She's just known as Sister Samurai. She is, when we go inside the story, we're made to believe that she is the only Sister Samurai left. Her set, her gang, her peeps, they were all taken out during a demon war, or a confrontation that they had with demons, and this particular samurai was not able to be there at that time. So throughout the story, she's going through a lot of guilt, and she's feeling a lot of guilt about that, not being there with her other sisters, because a lot of them died that day. So she's walking around with a whole lot of guilt. And within this story, and basically the story is pretty much the course of one day. She also protects this little mountain village or whatever, and we get fight scenes throughout the day. We get fight scenes with demons. We get fight scenes with like gang leaders, head of gangs and all sorts of, things. It is a very, very good book. Like, I was just so like blown away by it. And basically by the end of the book, like I said, she also comes to find out that she's not the only samurai left, as she, kind of like convinced herself. And throughout the book, we not made to believe, but you kind of believe or kind of think that there's pretty much a demon like on her back, pretty much telling her that she's useless and worthless. She should have died with her other sisters, and all that other stuff. So she's kind of like fighting that. And I love that reveal at the end where she ends up pretty much just like fighting herself to come out of this, um, this bad place that she has found herself in. I also loved at the end that she had a family. She had a husband and she had children. So it was just like, it was so good to see that, and see how this woman was able to, even though she's dealing with this loathing feeling of not being, of guilt, she was still able to, have a family and things like that. But the book is really, really good. I enjoyed it. I just say, if you like mangas, you like high stake high stake mangas. There's a lot of action inside of this book. There's some magic inside of this book as well. It is a very well story. I also like the dedication that she had at the end of this book of, black women that were murdered by the police state. It was just great. It was just really, really great. I enjoyed this book so much. I gotta check out what this Miss Obey is doing. Any other mangas or books like this from her, because it was fan fucking tastic. I enjoyed it a lot. And then last but least is In Their Shadows by Briana Cole. Ciao. Now, Briana Cole does very good mystery, romance, suspense, mystery, suspense, thrillers, child. But this book had me jacked the hell up. I finished this book in one goddamn sitting. It anyway, basically inside of this book we had character April, who is, when we go inside of the story, is living double lives. Okay, this lady had two husbands. This lady has two husbands, but we come to find out that April has always been raised to be a scammer, always have been raised to deceive people, to get over on people, by, through her mother, by way of her mother. And yeah, it is a lot going on inside of this book. I was just like, woo wee. But we go inside the story. She has the two husbands, and things start happening where she starts getting packages, she start getting mail, and all this other stuff that kind of like is kind of like throwing her past back into her. Pretty much what happened with this book, her mother really was not shit. Her mother was crazy as fuck too. But her mother had this boyfriend, and the boyfriend was a sick individual. And the mother, because she was caught herself trying to scam the boyfriend, she ended up having it where April marries her boyfriend. It was absolutely goddamn wild. And a situation happens, and it was just like April ends up getting caught by this dude because they were stealing from him. They were like slowly, taking money from him and stuff like that. But this dude worked with some pretty bad people, so every time they were stealing from him, they were taking his clients' money, and it was like, everybody was about to be 6 feet the fuck under. Okay, but dude catches her one day, and the story just goes from there. Okay, and then we pick up where we have April, like, somewhere down in the near future or whatever, where she's married to these two men, and life is lifing for April. Life is lifing for April, and she's struggling with trying to keep up these two marriages, and she's two different people. Okay, so it's just like she's struggling with that. One of the husbands, she's just kind of like, she's just kind of like okay with him, and then the other husband, I feel like with Ray, she had more feelings for him or whatever. Both of them were both well off or whatever, so she lived a pretty good life with both of these men, and she was able to get away with it because she was pretending to be a stewardess. So she was always acting like she was like on these trips. But child, when she was leaving one husband, acting like she was going on her next flight, like she was on her job, but she wasn't on her job. She was staying her ass in Atlanta, but she was just going from one husband to the husband. The shit was absolutely wild. And the way these men just dealt with that was crazy. And when she was explaining like the separate wedding pictures, I was just like crazy. But but what starts happening is someone is trying to remind April of her past, and all these things start happening. Um, it's just a snowball effect of bad things. April is starting to have nightmares from her situation that she had with the mom, and the mom's boyfriend Warren was his name or whatever. So someone is trying to remind her, and when we're inside of the story, we believe that Warren is dead, that um, April and the mother murdered Warren. So we're thinking he's dead while we're reading this goddamn story, y'all. We're thinking that this man is dead, okay? And whoever is trying to remind April of her past um wants her to suffer, and they want these seemingly two lives that she has with these other men to implode. They want her to suffer. They want her to fall apart. Like, this shit was absolutely wild. Just absolutely. It was just like, and it was crazy how like everything just started like tying together. There's even like an ex-boyfriend before she met and married these two men that she's with, that kind of like comes back and he's threatening her and all. But y'all, the ending of the book blew my fucking mind. The ending of the book blew my brain out because, listen, kind of find out that these people found out where and who April was currently pretending to be, um, because her mama set her up. Her mother set her up. I was like, right? And then at the end, we get an epilogue where, now remember I said we're thinking that Warren, the dude that she got away from first, is dead. Warren was dead, y'all. He was not dead, and it was crazy the story that she tells in the epilogue. I was just like, and I felt for her throughout this book, because I be like, you ain't never gonna be free. You got your conniving mama, and you got this man that is on your ass because you stole from him. Like, it was just like, oh my god. I enjoyed the book. That is one thing I love about Briana Cole. She will give you a mystery. She will give you a thriller. She will give you suspense and probably throw a little romance up in there, whatever. But one thing she is going to also give you is a messy ass story. And child, this was messy. This was messy, and I enjoyed it. So all I gotta say, if you like suspense thrillers with a little murder thrown up in there, then definitely check out Briana Cole's work. But In Her Shadows it's a wild, crazy ass ride. I was just like, mm, mm. But yeah. So that is my reading wrap up. That is it for me. And until the next one, later days. Bye. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.